Kyiv cityscape. On the night of June 17th, the city experienced the largest attack since the beginning of the year. Up to 440 drones and 32 missiles were launched at districts ranging from Solomyansky to Shevchenkivsky. In the Solomyansky district, the strike destroyed the entrance to a 9-story building. 28 people were killed and more than 130 wounded. The building collapsed completely, with dozens still trapped under the rubble. At least 27 infrastructure facilities, such as schools, hospitals, industrial and energy facilities, were hit. The capital has declared 3 days of mourning, and transport is operating with restrictions due to damaged networks. Odessa. Night strike using Shahid drones. 2 dead, 17 wounded, including 5 children. Reuters.com. The target was a residential area in the Primorsky district, and residents themselves participated in the evacuation, carrying children and elderly people to the entrances of buildings. Kharkiv. 9 clashes in the areas of Vovchansk, Lipsy, and Staritsia. Parts of the city are resuming work after the attack's drone debris hit a dormitory. 3 wounded. Guided aerial bombs were used in Vovchansk. Airstrikes hit the Kharkiv region. Several civilians were wounded. Sumy and the border region. More than 99 clashes in 24 hours in the villages of Yezdetsk, Petrushevka, Myropilsk, etc. The Ukrainian 225th Separate Assault Regiment delivered a direct strike on a command post near Andrivka. Russian Major General Yartsev was killed and documents were seized. Russians occupy the villages of Kostantinivka, Oleksivka, Kindrativka, up to 125 square kilometers under control. Simultaneously, further fighting near Unikivka, Sadki. Russians are trying to gain a foothold in the forest near the border. Torets, Donetsk region. 14 attacks per day in the areas of Torets, Druzhba, Shumy, Zalizn, Pivden. The enemy has partially advanced in Shumy in the northern district. The fighting is fierce, with constant shelling and artillery strikes. Ukrainian troops are holding the line of defense. Pokrovsk. 12 to 20 strikes on the city. KB missiles, artillery, drones, a whole range of attacks per day. The result? 75% of the housing stock and 90% of the infrastructure has been damaged. Water, gas, and electricity are unavailable. At least 8 wounded, several dead. The city is on the verge of a humanitarian catastrophe. Lyman. Fighting continues in the areas of Novy Mir, Serhivka, Lipov, Torsky, and Zarikh. Over 20 clashes. The Ukrainian counterattack struck enemy concentrations near Zarikh and Torsky. Enemy positions were blown up, but resistance remained strong. Kurakov. Test City, 5 shellings, 2 residential apartment buildings damaged, 1 nobleman killed, 6 civilians wounded, including 1 child. The hospital is overloaded. Patients are being taken to Pokrovsk. Zaporizhia. Shelling continues in Huliapol, Orikhiv, Bilohiria, and Malinivka. Strategy. 3 small-scale attacks disrupted transport operations. In the city itself, a shell hit the Preobrazhenka industrial zone, causing a fire, 2 workers wounded. Kherson. Over the past 24 hours, there have been 11 attacks, rockets, artillery, drones. The targets were residential areas, kindergartens, and crossings. There are 3 dead and 9 wounded. A dozen private cars were destroyed or damaged. The armed forces of Ukraine destroyed an enemy Kakan-type boat near the Dnipro estuary. Nikopol. Shelling with cluster munitions. Significant damage to the water supply and power grid. 20,000 residents left without electricity/water. There are 4 wounded, including 2 state emergency service personnel. Kremenchuk. Night air defense battle. Debris fell in an industrial area. According to official data, there were no casualties, and a fire in a warehouse was localized. Losses of the Russian army as of June 18, 2025. Personnel. Approximately 1,100 people killed, wounded, missing. Tanks, 9 units destroyed. Armored vehicles, IFVs, APCs 17 units. Artillery systems, 22 units. MLRS, 3 units. Operational tactical UAVs, 41 units. Cruise missiles, 12 shot down. Aircraft, 1, according to unconfirmed information, Su-34 over Kharkiv region. Electronic warfare systems, 2 units. Vehicles, over 25 vehicles. In total, since the beginning of the year, as of June 18th, according to information from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Russia's losses in 2025 exceeded. Personnel over 200,000 people. Total losses since the start of the full-scale invasion, February 24, 2022, over 600,000 people, according to estimates by some analytical centers, up to 1 million wounded and killed combined. Ukraine's losses, according to official information. In Kyiv, 28 people, all civilians, were killed and over 130 wounded. In Odessa, 2 people were killed and 17 wounded. In Kharkiv, 3 civilians were wounded. In Sumy region, 4 people were killed and at least 7 wounded. Toretsk, Pokrovsk, Nikopol, Kherson, a total of at least 20 killed, over 40 wounded. The losses of the armed forces of Ukraine are not disclosed, but in some areas, the deaths of servicemen were recorded during the defense of Toretsk, Lyman, and near Andrivka. Red Triangle pointed up assessment of the situation. The front continues to burn in dozens of areas. The main cities of Ukraine, not only those near the front line, but also those in the rear, are under constant fire. Kyiv, Kharkiv, Odessa, Sumy, Toretsk, Pokrovsk, Nikopol, and Kherson are not just names on a map, but symbols of endurance, pain, and endless struggle. The morale of society remains high, despite the losses. People in Kyiv are clearing the rubble without waiting for the authorities. Volunteer centers for victims are opening in Odessa. In Toretsk, the military is holding the line of defense on the ruins, and in Pokrovsk, survival has become a routine. The Ukrainian military is acting tough and precise, destroying enemy command, equipment, and logistics. Counterattacks on Andrivka in the Sumy region and on positions in Toretsk demonstrate the ability not only to hold the defense, but also to act asymmetrically, where the enemy does not expect it. At the same time, Russia is increasing its air activity and use of guided aerial bombs, GAB. In recent weeks, up to 80 GABs have been dropped daily on frontline cities, causing widespread destruction and casualties. Checkered flag conclusion. The front line on June 18th is a front line without sleep. A front line where every hour is a chance to survive. Despite the blows, Ukraine stands. Not passively, but actively, boldly, with fury and will. While the Russians are deploying battalions near Toretsk and flying into meat grinders in the Sumy region, Ukrainians are building fortifications, preparing new mechanized units, and raising entire streets from the ruins. There are still many months ahead. But every night, every day, every soldier, and every civilian prove that Ukraine is not only fighting for its land. It is fighting for the very idea of being free.